this guy called me. He had a peacock that he wanted mounted, all fanned out. And it was when I just got into taxidermy. And the crazy thing about it was he didn't even have the animal. He wanted me to know where he could purchase one at to get it stuffed. And I'm like, I don't really know, sir.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. On this week's episode, we're covering a topic that's not yet been covered on the show. I was introduced to Josette Robinson. Josette is an avid hunter and angler, and she took her passion for the outdoors to the next level by becoming a taxidermist. She owns Trails and Taxidermy in Iowa. I thought it'd be really fun to have her on the show since I personally don't know a whole lot about taxidermy, and we've not covered it before. I really learned a lot, and I'm excited for you to hear our conversation. How did you get into it?
So growing up, always loved the outdoors. And where I'm from, we're in a really rural area, and outdoors is kind of a big part of your lifestyle. And so I started bow hunting when I was 11. And at the time, we never had a lot of money growing up as kids. And I was like, I wanted to get my first deer mounted or whatever. So that was kind of what interested me. Mm-hmm. And then as time went on, I decided when I got out of high school that was what I wanted to do, was get into taxidermy, because the whole hunting and fishing aspect, right, was always where my interest lied. So I went to Janesville, Wisconsin and went to taxidermy school there. And I've been doing it now for 9 years in April.
Okay. So you're in Iowa. How do you pronounce the name of the town you're in? Keosauqua. Okay. What part of the state is that?
Southeast Iowa.
Southeast. Okay. And so you own Trails and Taxidermy. That's your shop?
Yep. That's my shop right here at the house.
Gotcha.
Yep.
That was going to be one of my questions. If you have to go to school to learn how to do taxidermy, which you mentioned you do, and I figured you did, because it seems like there's a kind of a lot to it, a lot of different probably methods based on, the type of animal that you're mounting, and it's kind of like an art form, right?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. There's definitely an art form to it. It takes a lot of patience too. That's the biggest thing. But yeah, there's so many different aspects to taxidermy. You don't have to necessarily go to school for it. If you could find another shop and let somebody, work under a taxidermist or whatever. There's a lot of different revenues for people to do it. But for me at the time, the school was what I thought was the best thing to do, and it was hands-on and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yep.
How do you practice to learn it?
So at the time when I went to taxidermy school, I really hadn't messed with it too much. So I just skinned out deer and stuff like that we had harvested, but nothing taxidermy side of it. So when I got back from school, I had some stuff that I had saved up, fish and other things and deer heads that I just practiced on myself, on my own stuff. Yep. Before I really went into offering it, to customers.
If somebody wanted to get into it, so you recommend either kind of studying under somebody or going to a school to learn how to do it.
Yep. If you can't find somebody to study under, then I would definitely go to the school. But I would try to find another taxidermist willing to kind of take you under their wing. It's kind of tough because, some people are afraid in the long run, they're going to go get their taxidermy license and maybe potentially take their business, I guess. But if you can find a taxidermist who's pretty laid back and not worried about that kind of thing, they're usually pretty helpful on wanting to help somebody on learning it. So
yeah. And are there a lot of people that do it? I mean, is it kind of, I don't know if it's, people are still really interested in getting mounts created. So there's a pretty good demand for it, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Like in my area, I'm from a really rural spot out here, and just within 50 miles of me, I think there's 4 or 5 shops.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So you stay pretty busy?
Yeah, yep. I actually took my business full time 2 years ago, and it's been very successful.
Great.
And I think there's three or four, three for sure, other full time shops, like I said, within 50 miles of me.
Are you required to have a license in order to practice taxidermy?
Yes. Okay. Yep. In the state of Iowa where I'm at, we are required to have a license. You don't have to be required. They don't make you like you have to go to school or anything like that. I did. But you do have to go ahead and get a license. And then prior to opening your business, you have to let your local DNR officer know that you're going to start taxidermy.
Gotcha. And is the licensing process difficult, or is it basically just a fee and an application that you send in?
For us here, it's the same as going and buying your fishing license, basically. We just go in and you tell them I need my taxidermy license, and they go ahead and print it off for you, and it's good for a year at a time.
Gotcha. And do you have a lot of like ongoing interaction with the state conservation department as being a taxidermist?
They usually, if they have questions about certain customers, they'll call, or I always help them out, like with chronic wasting, it's going on right now. So I always submit samples for them so they can do their testing and stuff like that. And the biologists, they're actually just down the road for me. So it's pretty handy to have them that close.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah, that's convenient.
Yeah.
So how many different skills does someone who's into taxidermy have to have? I mean, you're sewing, do you do airbrushing too, and like maybe some carpentry? Like how many different skills do you have to have to do this job?
I tell everybody you have to have a little bit of artistry, I guess, in you, because it's definitely an art form. So yeah, airbrushing is a lot of it. I use a lot of clay. So when you go to shape eyes, you kind of have to sculpt them in a little bit. Definitely have to be good with a knife. Power tools, you have to be up on all of that. Some carpentry is definitely involved to a point, because a lot of bases you have to make homemade if you don't get prefabricated ones already. But yeah, it's a wide variety, really. It's crazy how much different, things you need to know how to do that goes into it.
Yeah, I'd say. I've also read, like, now it seems like, I imagine with like any other kind of industry, as we get more technology and things like that, that kind of starts to change things. And I know people are doing like reproduction mounts now, where you're not actually mounting the actual animal, so you can go off of just a picture. Do you do any of that as well?
So, yep, for the reproductions, that's fish based. And yeah, a lot of people are going that route. And I mean, it's good practice, especially for the muskies. I know a lot of states practice catch and release for those. And all your ocean fish, those are all replicas.
Do you just do it on your own, or do you have anybody else that works in the shop with you?
Nope, it's all me. I do all my tanning myself too for all my deer mounts and mammal mounts and stuff like that, which kind of helps me get the process going a little quicker and getting the jobs out the door quicker to the customer, not having to wait for all my stuff at a tannery to get back. Right.
What's like the most challenging to mount?
Birds, which is why I don't do them.
Gotcha. Okay. And I was just curious as to what the reason why would be.
So the biggest thing with birds is the fleshing process is one of them. So when you skin the bird out, you have all them feather tracks in there. And you actually use a wire wheel, and that's how you clean it. And it's a pain in the butt, to be honest. I mean, it's a big pain. And then when you get it mounted, you have to go through and you shingle them. So every single feather, you've got to go through and put it back in its proper placement.
Wow.
And it's just hours.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, that's what I said. So I just decided, you know what? I can do everything else, but forget that.
You're right. Well, I saw on your Facebook, though, you do some stuff with like turkeys, just not full.
Yeah.
Bird. Okay.
Yep. I just won't do the whole bird. Yep. That's right.
What's like one of the craziest things that someone's ever asked you to mount?
The craziest thing, I didn't do it, but this guy called me. He had a peacock that he wanted mounted, all fanned out. And it was when I just got into taxidermy. And the crazy thing about it was he didn't even have the animal. He wanted me to know where he could purchase one at to get it stuffed. And I'm like, I don't really know, sir.
Yeah, that's kind of odd. You're going to buy an animal to, I guess you'd have to kill it and then mount it.
Oh yeah. He needed to know how to go about that. And I was like, okay, this was not what I was expecting my first 6 months of business.
So do you get a lot of people that, ask to mount pets and things like that as well?
I've had a couple of people ask about pets. I don't do pets or nothing like that. I'm strictly, wild game.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Yeah, but I've definitely had people ask about it. That's just something I never personally wanted to get into. But yeah, they definitely, like I said, I think I've had 3 or 4 calls about it now.
Gotcha. So what's the most common thing that you do?
Whitetail deer. Yep.
Whitetail. Okay. Is that your favorite, or do you have something else?
Yeah, that's probably my favorite. Yep. Because I love to hunt whitetail too. So that's definitely the favorite. Yep.
Awesome. And how long does it usually take from start to finish? Like how many hours on a whitetail, for instance?
I average about 22 hours per whitetail. That's including the tanning process, because I do all that myself in shop. So, yep. Is
that pretty common? Do most taxidermists do their own tanning, or is that something they typically outsource?
Yep. A lot of them outsource anymore. Okay. Yep. So there's a few around here that still tan in shop, but the majority of everybody that I know just sends it off to a big tannery.
Gotcha. Okay. And how many mounts do you do per month on average? Just
I mean, if I can get 15 critters mounted each month, that would be great. Like this year total, I took in around 115 jobs.
Wow.
With everything. Yep. And for me, I mean, I'm a 1-person shop, so it's pretty time consuming to keep up with that.
Totally. Has it been busier this year because of more people are getting outdoors with lack of other activities going on?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I took in some more fish here over the past few weeks and stuff like that. So yeah, I haven't really seen a slowdown on my end because of the whole, COVID and all that.
Right.
So yeah, business has been good for me.
Good. And has it been difficult? How's getting supplies been? Has that been a challenge?
In the beginning, a couple months ago when it really started, it was kind of a bummer, but now people are kind of finding ways to get around it. And my main supply house, never shut down.
Good.
So I didn't have, a whole lot of downtime. I was able to pretty much keep going through.
Got it.
Awesome. Pumping them out.
So if someone's looking to have a mount done, what are some of the important things that they should find out when they're researching or finding out which taxidermist they should take it to?
The biggest thing is if they have a website or a Facebook page, definitely look at their stuff, before you just take one to somebody. And if somebody says they can do it half price or a friend of a friend, I don't know how many of those I've had come to me and they're like, please fix this, and I'm sure that's happened to a lot of, other taxidermists too. They see that. So just do your research on your taxidermist, get referrals. And then if you have something and you're ready to bring it, like fish, for example, if you want to do a skin mount, you should put it like a wet towel, make sure the towel's wet, wrap the fish in it and freeze it right away. And then deer, same thing. You should skin it as quickly as you can and put it in the freezer before you can take it to the taxidermist. Stuff like that, just so you don't have your specimen spoil.
Mm-hmm. And then what are some other things from your perspective that makes your job easier if customers did up front?
Oh, so for example, deer, I mean, there's so many that people they don't know how to cape them off properly, skinning them. And if they would just let the taxidermist handle that, that would be great. Because so many times they make unnecessary cuts and then you have to try to repair stuff. I've had deer come in and it's missing part of the cape is what we call it, the part that you mount, and it'll be missing, a quarter of it. And it's like, oh no, how do you fix this? It's gone.
Gotcha.
So that's the biggest thing. Yeah. Just let the taxidermist handle it if you don't have any experience in skinning that stuff.
Do you end up having to deal with a lot of irrational people?
Oh, it happens.
Yeah.
It definitely happens. I think every business has to deal with that. But yeah, it seems like everybody thinks they know a little bit about taxidermy, the ones that are usually irrational. And so they like to kind of give their 2 cents. For example, I had a customer a few years ago, and he brought me a deer to mount, but he skinned it out, and he left the hide in a 5-gallon bucket for 3 days, and it was about 80 degrees. It was really hot in October. Well, that just doesn't work. Bacteria grows, and it creates slippage, so the hair wants to fall out. So I tried to tell him that it wasn't usable. It was pretty much junk. And he told me that it was supposed to be green and smell bad because that's just how it is. And I'm like, no, sir, that's not how this works.
Wow.
From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick and mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? A whole lot of savings, because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Yeah, you get a little bit of everything.
Oh, I'm sure. So the only mount that I've ever had done personally was, and I don't hunt much, so I know deer and things like that are really popular, but I do fish. I love to fish, obviously, and so it was kind of a special story. But growing up in Minnesota, I grew up fishing for walleye, so it's just my favorite fish. And unfortunately, here in Tennessee, the lake that I'm on isn't stocked with walleye, so I don't get opportunity to fish for walleye much. But about 5 years ago, I bought my first pontoon, and I named it Marble Eye after the walleye. So, as that's my favorite fish, but it's kind of odd because, like I said, the lake I'm on doesn't have any walleye in it. So every now and then I'll take my boat out and go to this other reservoir here that is stocked with walleye. It's called Lake Normandy. And the very first time I took my pontoon there out on my own to try to catch a walleye, we got one, within a couple hours of being out there. And it was like the biggest one that I've ever caught in my life. So actually my wife caught it, and she thought she was hung on something, and it was reeling it in. I'm thinking, oh, it's probably a catfish or something like that. And then I saw it turn, and I saw the skin. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a walleye. Started freaking out because I could see how big it was, So we netted it, and yeah, so that one was pretty special because it was the first walleye I ever boated on, Marble Eye, named after the walleye. So we felt like, that would be a good one to actually have mounted. And so it's been hanging in the houseboat for a few years now. And I notice it's like collecting dust. And so I kind of asked you offline, but probably other people are interested in what's the best way to go about kind of maintaining and keeping those mounts in good condition?
On your walleye, was it a skin mount or was it a replica?
It's a skin mount.
Okay,
Yep.
So what I would do is just get you a microfiber cloth and put a little bit of Windex or like a Pledge, a dust preventative spray, just a little bit. You don't want to soak the rag or nothing. And then just go ahead and lightly wipe the fish down and go with the scales, not against them. And, yep. And don't, when you're on the fins, don't try to go to the edges and rough them up too bad. Just kind of, wipe it nice and soft and smooth, and that'll get 90% of that dust off. And I have a really soft brush in the shop, paintbrush, and you can go through that and knock the dust off first, even before you go through with the rag.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Well, yeah. And what about like if I did have like a buck or something like that? Is pretty much the same type of process, or?
Yep. So once again, I would just wipe as much dust off as you can first. And then, that Windex works really good. Once again, just put a little bit on there. They also sell a stuff, it's called Cowboy Magic, and it's actually for horses.
Okay.
And it's for grooming them. And you don't want oil. You want oil-free spray. And you could use that too, or like I said, or the Windex, and wipe the mounts down. And then I take a little bit of Windex on a Q-tip and clean the eyes up. Okay. Just kind of avoid the painted areas. You don't want to touch them too much.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, I appreciate that, because I keep looking at them like, I feel like I should be doing something to make sure this, stays in a good condition. So, I will definitely do that. Do you still get to get out and hunt much and fish and things like that too? Oh yeah. Yep.
Absolutely love to hunt and fish, and bow hunting is my biggest passion.
Okay.
And I get out there every fall. Yep.
What, do you have good fisheries in that area?
It's not bad. The biggest thing here where I live is the Des Moines River, and it's a pretty good catfishing spot. We have flatheads and channel cats, and there's a few blue cats, but not very many.
Okay.
And we do have walleye and saugeye in the river as well, and some stripers and stuff like that.
Nice.
And we have some pretty decent lakes around. My local lake, they just killed off in October, so that's kind of a bummer because it's only 10 minutes from the house.
Bummer. Yeah. And have you ever tried bow fishing?
Not yet. I really want to.
Yeah. Seems like if you love bow hunting and you also love fishing, that would be a cool thing to try. We had Melissa Bachman on the show. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she has a TV show on the Sportsman's channel called Winchester Deadly Passion, and actually had her on the show to talk specifically about bow fishing, because she's actually gone bow fishing offshore. So like in Florida.
I actually just saw an episode, because I've watched her show many times. She just had an episode on, I think, a week or so ago, and she was bow fishing.
Awesome. Yeah, she's got some monsters doing that.
Yes.
So, definitely looks like fun. So yeah, if you're into bow hunting, you'd think that would be a cool thing to try out, because it's pretty similar, a little bit different, obviously. I would think maybe even a little more challenging to try to get a fish in the water, but.
Yeah, it might be. It'd be a blast. I'd love to do it.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to try that out at some point. Are you online at all, or do you have anywhere where people could go kind of look at some of your work?
So all I have right now is just my Facebook page, which is Josette Robinson, and then I put all my taxidermy is on there.
Okay, cool. I was looking at some of them. They're pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If anybody ever wants to try it, I mean, like I said, don't be afraid to ask somebody, or, go to your local shop, because everybody's pretty helpful about it. I mean, if you ever have questions, that's what I would tell somebody if they're interested in learning it. And there's a bunch of YouTube videos too on how-tos and, tips like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. YouTube is a great resource. I always wonder how people ever knew how to do anything back in the day before we had YouTube.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to be on the show. And I'll go to if you don't mind, I'll go to your Facebook page and just kind of pull some of those images off of there, and so I can share it on the website as well, so people can kind of check that out. And yeah, so appreciate you being on.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.